everybody? It's JT Sports back to you guys with another video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about why this is a make or break season for Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think this season is going to be a deciding factor. Because before I even get into it, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I upload NFL videos and NFL content daily. And also, this is coming from a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So, every team, every fan base has their expectations. And yes, every team's expectation is to compete for the Super Bowl. No matter how bad the roster looks, every team's goal is to make it to the Super Bowl and win it. But everybody has expectations that you can look back on that season. You can be like, you know what, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with making it to the playoffs and winning and losing a playoff game. I'm okay with having this much amount of wins. Those are the kind of expectations I'm going to be referring to in this video. Mike Tomlin for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Won the Super Bowl against Arizona? I say that was Bill Cowher's team that he won a Super Bowl with. It wasn't his team. Most of the players on the roster came from the Bill Cowher era. But we're just going to give him credit where it's due because he coached the team up. He got them to the Super Bowl. He coached the team up, won it. We'll give him that. A couple of years later, played Green Bay. Lost, still made it to the Super Bowl. Those are the expectations. So why now are expectations for the Pittsburgh Steelers now seem to be like, it's okay not to be competing for the Super Bowl? Why is that? Why should Pittsburgh Steelers fans be okay with not being in the Super Bowl? I understand you're not going to be competing for a Super Bowl every single season. But we had one of the most talented rosters in all of football. Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, Big Ben. Big Ben was a top 5 quarterback. He's still a top 10 quarterback. He's not a top 5 quarterback, but he's still a top 10 quarterback. We had Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown, arguably two of the best players at their respective positions. One of the best offensive lines in all of football. And won no championship. No Super Bowl appearance, no Super Bowl win, no ring, no nothing. The closest we came was in the AFC Championship game in 2016 when we got stumped by the New England Patriots. Got absolutely stumped and manhandled. I don't want to hear anything about injuries because the only notable player that wasn't playing in that game was Cameron Hayward. That was it. Other than that, we had Le'Veon Bell. He left the game early, and we still had Antonio Brown and Big Ben. So how in God's name did we get destroyed by the New England Patriots that bad? And I'm not talking about that garbage touchdown that we scored in the fourth quarter. That game was flat out ugly. Then let's not even talk about it in 2017 when we lost to the Jacksonville freaking Jaguars. At Heinz Field. I understand we lost to them once in the regular season. But all they did was run the football and throw when necessary. And Mike Tomlin, being a defensive-minded coach that he is, couldn't even stop that. You couldn't even stop Blake Bortles, who all he did was throw crossing routes. Blake freaking Bortles. Can you believe it? Pittsburgh lost to Blake Bortles in the playoffs. This is why this is a make-or-break season for Mike Tomlin. Last season, we didn't make it to the playoffs. And injuries wasn't even a big problem. The Oakland game and the Denver game were two games that really killed us in making it to the playoffs. And when did our expectations drop? Our expectations is to be competing for a Super Bowl. It seems like every single year after 2010, expectations, Mike Tomlin is just okay with making it to the playoffs. We made it to the playoffs. We did such and such, got a bye week. We went to the AFC Championship. We're okay with that. We shouldn't be okay with that. That shouldn't be acceptable. You see, let me give you guys a good example. Alabama. Nick Saban built that program up. They compete for championships year in and year out. When Alabama doesn't win a championship, that season is considered a disappointment. You see, expectations are always supposed to increase. Expectations should never die down. Expectations is what makes you as a person. Well, at least defines you career-wise. And in Mike Tomlin's case, He has been a guy who has never lived up to expectations. Ever since 2010, all Pittsburgh has did was underachieve. We lost to Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow. I love Tim Tebow. But no way should we have lost to Tim Tebow. No way we should have lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars. No way we should have got stumped by New England. I don't care how good New England is at home. We were the better team than New England that year. We were better than New England. We shouldn't have lost that bad. No way. Mike Tomlin, year in and year out, has underachieved. Last season was pretty much my straw. The year before that, I was making arguments about why not to fire Mike Tomlin. But now this season, I think this season is going to be a real eye-opener. I think if Mike Tomlin doesn't even win the playoff game, if we don't even make it to the divisional round of the playoffs this year, I think we might need to take a look at Mike Tomlin. And we might need to consider firing him. It doesn't matter if you make it to the playoffs or not. The playoffs aren't the expectations for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The expectations for the Pittsburgh Steelers is to make it and compete for a Super Bowl. Not win a playoff game and be satisfied with that. That's not expectations for Pittsburgh Steelers. And Pittsburgh Steelers fans should never let that be their expectations. No matter how bad the team might look on paper, our expectations are to compete for a Super Bowl. Not make it to the playoffs and win a playoff game. If we're not in the Super Bowl, if we're not winning the Super Bowl, then that's not considered a successful season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers have always been one of the most storied franchises in the NFL because of how good we are at winning. We're supposed to be winning Super Bowls, not being satisfied with coming up short and losing to the Jacksonville Jaguars in the playoffs. Haven't even talked about 2018. I don't even know what the heck happened. What the heck happened? We were literally 7-2-1, destroyed Carolina on national television, and ended up missing the playoffs. We lost to Denver and lost to the Oakland Raiders. It's just mind-boggling to me how much expectations have changed for Mike Tomlin. Why are we giving Mike Tomlin a pass for not competing for Super Bowls? This dude hasn't made it to the Super Bowl in almost a decade. And fans from other teams are going to be crazy talking about why would you consider firing Mike Tomlin? He got you the playoffs, this and that. Expectations change. As a Pittsburgh Steelers fans, we're not okay with making it to the playoffs. A good season for Pittsburgh isn't making it to the playoffs. A good season for Pittsburgh is being in the AFC Championship game, but most likely competing for a Super Bowl or being in the Super Bowl. We have competed in a Super Bowl for almost a decade. And it seems like Mike Tomlin doesn't feel like a sense of urgency. It feels like he doesn't feel like a sense of urgency, which he should. He should feel a sense of urgency. Big Ben is regressing. He's not regressing as bad as everybody else thinks he is. He went from a top 5 quarterback, and now people consider him a top 15 quarterback. Big Ben is still a top 15 quarterback. This was a guy who led the NFL in passing yards last season. Big Ben is regressing slowly. And yet, we can't even get this guy one more ring. One more freaking ring for top 5 offensive line. The offensive line was voted by Pro Football Focus as being the best in all of football. And yet we missed the playoffs. This was supposed to be the best defense Pittsburgh had in seasons, and we missed the playoffs. We beat New England and still missed the playoffs. We sucked against New England. We beat New England. We thought that was a turning point, and we still missed the playoffs. It seems like Mike Tomlin doesn't feel a sense of urgency. He doesn't. He's just okay with coming up short. Making it to the playoffs should not be okay by any standard for a franchise like the Pittsburgh Steelers. A team that has a history spanning over decades and 2 decades, 3 decades, back to the 80s, 90s, competing for Super Bowls. And we haven't even competed for a Super Bowl. It's about to be almost a decade since Pittsburgh last went to the Super Bowl. This is a make or break year for Mike Tomlin. I'm not saying he needs to be fired if we don't make it to the Super Bowl this year, but I'm just saying, this year, I expect us to make it at least to the divisional round. If Mike Tomlin can't coach up this team to the divisional round, then I think we need to open our eyes and reconsider. Tony Dungy got fired for making it to the playoffs and still got fired because he didn't live up to expectations. Expectations at that point in Tampa was to compete for a Super Bowl, and Tony Dungy couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. Expectations define you. Expectations for Pittsburgh are to win Super Bowls or at least compete for Super Bowls. And that's why I think this is a make or break season for Mike Tomlin. It is. We haven't competed for a Super Bowl in almost a decade. Almost a decade. Last time we went to the Super Bowl was 2010. Mike Tomlin has repeatedly underachieved. We've let talent go. We let talent go. We lost Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, both in their primes. Gone. It doesn't matter how good Antonio Brown's going to be with Oakland. It doesn't matter how good Le'Veon Bell's going to be with New York. What matters is how good they was with the Pittsburgh Steelers and that we didn't win the championship or at least make it to the Super Bowl with those guys. It doesn't matter what they do now that they're gone. Mike Tomlin, this is a make or break season for him. It is. Because he has not lived up to expectations. This season, if we're not in the divisional round of the playoffs this season, then we most definitely need to reconsider Mike Tomlin as our head coach. Mike Tomlin, to me, is basically the black version of Andy Reid. He can build your roster up, he can get you there, but he can't get you over the hump. And we've been coming up short for too many years now. And I think this year, we need to take a real look at Mike Tomlin and consider, is he the right coach for Pittsburgh? Because I assure you, we have Bill Cowher as our coach right now over the last couple of seasons. Big Ben will have the same amount of championships on his fingers as Tom Brady. It's crazy. Expectations for a team should never die down. They should always stay the same, or at least increase. Pittsburgh and Mike Tomlin, this will make a break season for us. It's going to define what Mike Tomlin is as a head coach. It is. Expectations define you. They always will. And Mike Tomlin hasn't lived up to those expectations. And that's why this is a make or break season for the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin. And if we don't even make it to the divisional round, I think we need to reconsider, is Mike Tomlin the right guy to lead the Pittsburgh Steelers? That's it for this video. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos and content.